Hello, everyone. How is everyone today? This is another episode of the very hastily rushed daily chats we're having with our cast. I've put together a very basic overlay. It's also be kind to me. It's been very last minute, but we had a chat with Danny yesterday, and it was absolutely fantastic. And today we have Mr. Lee Goldberg. Lee, how are you?
I'm doing well. Give yourself more credit.
Thanks.
No one needs to know things are hastily put together.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, maybe they wouldn't even notice.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Don't apologize or ask forgiveness if it's something they don't even know they need to do.
Yeah, it's good.
You're doing great, my love.
Well done. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Duval doesn't even know how to overlay. So
yeah, woohoo, yeah.
Me neither. I don't either. I said that like I do. I don't. I could hand fist smash keys on my keyboard. That's about what I could do.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's get this chat started. Everyone, grab a cuppa. I got a cuppa. Grab a tea cake if you got one, or a biscuit. It's going to be an intense session. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go for it. So, Lee, the eternal question: who are you?
I'm a Virgo. I'm Lee. I'm a pancake artist who has a love for tabletop, and have been lucky enough to get to know Hope a little bit. And so when she wanted to do her first one shot that was not streamed but with just a couple of friends, I got the invite to be in it, and it was a really fun character to play. And so when you did the one shot for charity, and I got the invite to that, it was like, yeah, it's going to be level 6, and the character that I created, I've always wanted to do something with, and I said I'd love to do a campaign with David, but because of how his character is built, it has to start at like level 6.
Yeah.
Like mechanically, and it's hard. It's like a hard sell to be like, hey, I need this to be level 6. That cool?
Yeah. That makes sense.
And I don't need to use David for everything I do. It's just I've always wanted to explore him more. So I'm really excited to do that.
Yes, and we'll get in more into that later. So did you know Hope before? Did you meet her before you played TTRPG with her?
No, well, it's kind of a weird. She was in Heroes ... and it's changed like Heroes of the Vale, Heroes of the Plains. I watched and enjoyed that show, but there was thanks, Hope. But yeah, so when Miles was really young, we didn't go into when we went into lockdown, he was 6 months old.
Right. Yeah.
So it was hard, but there were just some times and he wasn't sleeping like at all in his crib. So
wow.
From 6 months to a year, basically.
Yeah.
He wouldn't stay asleep in his crib for more than like 30 minutes at a time. So we would have like the boppy pillow, and
what is that?
It's like a pillow that's like I guess toilet seat shaped, just because it wraps around like your belly kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
So I put it on my lap, and I would hold him while he slept, and I would take him from like 10 p.m. to 5 in the morning, and then I would tag in Ashley and get some sleep so I could wake up for work in a few hours. So
yeah,
and that was hard. And there was just one day where I was having just a really hard mental space, and I had Miles on my lap, and Daniel was doing a live art stream of a piece that Hope commissioned. And I was on Twitter, and Dustin from D4 D&D put like a thing like, oh, we're hanging out watching the stream. And so I popped in, and I was like, I got nothing going on for the next many hours. And it was just myself, Hope, and Dustin that were in there watching Daniel make just this beautiful piece of Hope's character from Heroes. And we were just shooting the shit and having a really good time. And then follows commenced and just getting to be friendly and things like that. So, and I'm a likable person. So, of course, I get the
person. It's all connected. See, it's all connected. You got Daniel, Hope, you. It was fated to be. Well,
you're going to hear a weird when you ask me the question I know is on there about how did you get into TTRPG.
Well,
that story is even more like how the hell. But
well, since you brought it up, our fabulous #1 superfan, Child of Erte, Fallen Angel Iridian, has a huge list of questions, and the first question actually ties into something I was going to ask you. How did you get into TTRPGs, and what's your history? This is from me. What's your history of gaming in general?
That question has taken me for shock. I was not expecting that question even a little bit, so I don't. No, actually, content warning: drug use. I am a recovering addict, and I got sober right before my 30th birthday. And I'm an open book about this stuff, as long as anyone's okay, and I won't talk too much about it. But I got clean, and before that, I had listened to the podcast Nerd Poker, which is Brian Posehn's D&D podcast.
Never heard of it.
It's great, and it's funny. But when I first listened to it, I was in a really bad way. And it was sort of a lifeline to keeping my like little thread of mental acuity, feeling a little bit human when I felt really bad otherwise. But it really wasn't about the D&D of it. It was about the fantasy story and funny people I liked. That podcast ended, and I'd fallen off anyway. And then a few years later, I had already been in treatment for my addiction, and I really put my head down to stay sober. And in that time, I started working for the treatment center that I went to get clean, and I was a cook for them. And I would do brunches on weekends for the residents. And when your breakfast, hold on one second. I'm going so fast, I'm not breathing. Sorry.
Yeah, take your time, dude. Take your time.
So when you serve breakfast at 7, and then on a weekend you serve it at 9 as brunch, everyone's going to show up right at the beginning. So I would make 60 breakfasts within an hour. And then I'd have about an hour. That's fine. I'm fast and I'm good, so that was fine.
No doubt.
But I would have like an hour and a half of serving like 4 people. So I would get bored, and when if someone would get like sunny side up eggs, I would think, oh hey, that's eyeballs. So I would make faces out of hash browns and sausage and bacon and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And I had a resident that was helping me serve once, and he's like, dude, have you ever heard of pancake art? I think you'd love it.
Wow.
And I hadn't. So we went online and we're looking at it, and I was like, dude, that's pretty cool. And I had a ton of pancake batter in a pot. And so I grabbed a coffee filter, put batter in, poked a hole in the bottom, and used like a piping bag on my flat top. And it was terrible. I mean, it was terrible. No one does well in the beginning of pancake art, and I was using a coffee filter, but it was so fun
Wow.
that I dove in. And I also wasn't spending all my money on drugs, so I could spend it on griddles and bottles and food coloring. And so it was sort of, it was really good because when you're doing something as life changing as like stopping using from addiction, it's not as difficult when you're in meetings, in classes, in, things. What's difficult is when you're not doing those things, when your mind is your own and you're in your quiet. And I filled that time with pancake art. And so it really helped me to kind of stay grounded in an otherwise, new. I mean, I started my life over at 30, like everything, So I was doing pancake art, and while I was doing pancake art, they brought Nerd Poker back, a new DM, Dan Telford. He's amazing. And so I was listening, and one of the things that I needed a lot of work on was portraits. So I practiced by making portraits of all the Nerd Poker people, and I posted it on my socials, and they all kind of saw it. And one of them, Ken Daly, and I will take every opportunity I ever can to say that Ken Daly changed the trajectory of my life, because they were just really cool. They followed me on things. And in their podcast, they had a Patreon thing where they would do guest episodes, and it was really cool. And they had one where Joe Manganiello was on their show. Yeah. And so there was some point where they're like, oh yeah, we'll show them our poker face. And then like, yeah, our nerd poker face. And then you can kind of hear Ken say, as depicted in Pancakes. And they're like, what? It's like, as depicted in Pancakes, like that guy. And like, oh yeah, one of our viewers made pancakes.
Oh wow, that's so neat.
So if you're a Patreon, if you're a Patreon subscriber to Nerd Poker, you will hear the genesis of my hobby and passion becoming TTRPG focused in a lot of ways, because they spend a good solid like 30, 40 seconds of airtime showing Joe Manganiello my Instagram page. And then all flipping out about these pancakes. And so she followed me on Twitter, and I was like, holy shit, hello. And it's like, hey man, awesome work, blah, blah, blah. Do you do any other actual plays? And I was like, not really. He was like, oh, dude, you gotta check out Force Gray, Critical Role, Acquisitions Incorporated. And I was like, okay, Joe Manganiello. Like, you don't say no.
You don't say no to Joe Manganiello, yes.
you don't. So
yeah.
Smash cut so many years later, and I watch a ton of actual plays, listen to a lot of podcasts. Yeah. Playing wise, I never played D&D until I was like 31. Wow. I played with a group that also watched Critical Role, and I was like, oh yeah, I watch that all the time. It's great. And they're like, yeah, we're getting a D&D game. Do you want to play? And I was like, yeah, I absolutely do want to play. So, I drove 40 minutes after work on Mondays, and I was a cook, so they loved me, and I got all the cool gear because I would come with dinner every game. And it was just a lot of fun. And but I mean, my resume for like online play and things like that, like I've done a couple one-shots.
Yeah.
I've been in one actual campaign in my life. I played a little bit with my buddy Ron. I played Aliens RPG, but I mean, I don't have the pedigree that a lot of the people do. I just like to tell stories. I always have.
That's all you need. You don't need the pedigree. You just need to be good at storytelling, which you are.
All right. Question 1 in the can.
Yeah.
I'll try to be more brief in the
future. That's okay. Thank you for that amazing story. Also, thank you for being so open about your history.
It's one.
Yeah, I'm forever in awe of people in your situation who can get over that and get clean. So round of applause for you.
I'm hoping that chat is also clapping at home. I'm just kidding.
I'm sure they'll be
I don't. I really
clapping
don't.
like crazy.
I don't. But I think one of the really important things in that journey is to not regret and be ashamed of those things, because like I don't regret any of it. I wouldn't take back any of it, even the horrible stuff, because I wouldn't have ended up in Phoenix when I went to get clean. I wouldn't have met my now wife. I wouldn't have my kid. I wouldn't be, there's no way I'd be into pancake art if I didn't have like the reasoning to do something silly. So it got me where I am. It was just a weird, bumpy road.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You don't want to take it back. You, if it makes you who you are and you're happy with who you are. I mean, my story is, nowhere near as dramatic as you, but I do not like the person I was in my 20s. But I felt like now I'm a good person. I've learned so many lessons from that.
I like you a bunch.
Thank you. I like you too. So yeah, if you're happy with yourself, yeah, you wouldn't change anything.
All right, let's talk about David in our game. Jeez.
Yeah. Let's change tact a little bit. Let's get into the juicy details. So David, how did David meet Kier?
He didn't really meet Kier. Kier met him. David, I mean, light backstory stuff, because what will come out or whatever. But the concept is I needed to make, I want to play every class, right? I don't want to get hamstrung and like, oh, well, I like fighters, So the one thing that I always kind of didn't want to do is druid, because like, I didn't want to be a trope. I wasn't like, oh, I love nature and animals, and that seems to be what a lot of druids do. So when the wildfire druid came out, it was this really cool concept where like they've got fire and they've got healing, and that's like their major kit. And you use your beast shape to, make usually an animal, but like to make a fire spirit.
Yeah.
But I was watching a thing on YouTube where Lauren Urban, Obo Lauren, I'm sure many know her. Yeah. She was discussing it, and she brought up this really interesting fact about it. Is it doesn't say anywhere that the thing had to be an animal. It just had to be a small creature. You know what else is a small creature? A gnome, a halfling.
Yep.
So like the idea of like I could make an identical to myself character as my fire spirit. Why would I do that? What would that look like? So I basically thought of this concept of like just this gnome, no one special, just a gnome living his life. Woke up one day a level 6 druid, and there was a version of himself that is standing over him when he wakes up that is like, hey, what if your character had good posture, confidence, all of those things. Like what the ideal version would look like.
Yeah.
And so he was woken up and basically like, hey, you're part of a prophesied circle of druids that's gonna save the planes of existence from an elder dark entity. So let's get training. It's like,
yeah.
And in the beginning too, it's like, oh, no, thank you. No thanks. I'm good. Bye.
Yeah.
And so Hope's first game was very much played like that.
Yeah.
And it was really fun too, because it was like, you can cast through your fire spirit. So it was like there were three ways that I love, just like Danny, I love describing my actions, be it magic or fighting or anything. So I was like, okay, I have 3 ways to do this. I've got accidental. I've always given Hope permission to burn a level 1 spell slot of mine because an animal started talking to me and I understood it. The other one is poorly. like not doing it well. Like, so, your spirit can cast. So he's like, okay, I can do this. Scorching Ray. And puts his hand out and fires a bolt of fire. Scorching Ray's 3 rays, not 1. So then there's Kier behind him going and throwing the other 2 out,
Yeah.
And then there's just like getting kind of vapor locked, and Kier has to cast the whole thing by himself, So it kind of let me play with the concept of like not being ready, not wanting this, and then trying to make it fun to play with, because like, hey, I'm playing a character that doesn't want to be here. So to make that kind of fun to play with is like having given in for the most part to being there and being really amazed and impressed with the adventurers he's with, because they worked for their powers, they worked for their abilities, and they want to be there. So it's like just being amazed by the other people. And so I kind of made him more likable, even though he was frightened and didn't want to be there. But then we played the game with you and your character, and I'm going to be candid. The way you described your character on paper before we played, I was so nervous to play with you.
Really? Okay. I didn't know that.
Sound as written, it was a character who sounded really selfish. Like, oh yeah, he's got all these powers to protect himself, and this and that. And it was just like, if this person I've never met plays their character the way it is written, that will be a hard character to play with. And the reason I can tell you this and why I'm on your show is you played it really well and differently than it seemed like it was. It's kind of like how we talked about Daniel's character. Another player playing that personality would be miserable to play with.
Yeah.
But when you play it right, it's great.
Yeah.
And so when we were playing that game, there was something about how your character was there for people, but really frightened of being there.
Yep.
That David, who at this point had probably done a few, because he doesn't have like a team. Kier's like, all right, go with them. This is where you're going to learn how to play with scoundrels who maybe do the right thing for the wrong reason. Learn from what that looks like. Okay, now these are the people who are true heroes. Learn how, that kind of stuff. And at that point, it was like he was just dropped into this group. And so I wasn't planning on David growing as a character until the RP, and really good rolls made like that last like kapow to the boss, just like, so it changed. It grew David's character so much more than I ever thought it could, that when we started this game, I was like, okay, what do I do now? Yeah, so I'm so bad at being concise. Cheer found David.
Yeah, there we go. That answers the question. No, that was good. I mean, it's good. It gives backstory, and I think we all love David, and thank you for the kind words too. Let's move on. Why did David react the way he did to the fortune teller? That one was. I wasn't gonna have like a react. I wasn't gonna have him like interact with them, but it's that concept of like, I don't need a fortune teller to tell me my fortune, because literally someone told me my destiny, and that perhaps he's had other people that had like divination and things like that, and were like, I see great things in you. I'm like, yeah, no, shut up. I know. I get it. I'm great. I'm supposed to be great. I'm not though, so, and so, that was something I kind of wasn't anticipating going into this game, is David having kind of a short temper about that stuff,
but then also being David, who's like, like there's like, lawful good, chaotic good, neutral, all the alignments. He's like obnoxiously good in alignment because he just wants to be kind and good. And like, it's not about like, oh, you gotta follow. It's just, I want to help.
I think personally, alignment is really a thing of the past. I don't think, and I hope they do away with it in 1D&D to some degree. I mean, you can have like maybe an archetype or a trope, but I don't think if you're playing, you should think too much about alignment. That's my point of view.
I think it can be a guidepost.
It can be a guidepost, yeah.
But I don't think it's. I mean, I've never been like, all right, here's a situation. Let me look at my character sheet and see what I'm supposed to be. Like,
yeah, exactly. All right, question 4. How does David feel about his party? Does he feel like they're helping the people, making a difference?
So as it relates to like his like being put into parties by Kier, I think that the lesson with this party is like actually travel with this party for a while. Like it's not just like a substitute adventure. Like this is your group. Find a way. I think that there are aspects that he was just kind of like, not like, oh man, I don't like these people, but more like, oh, okay, so I've got the egotist, I've got the noble, like just that kind of like, because he had been in a group for such a small time, he only had those little glimpses into people. So I think that he's learned a lot about there being more to people than just what they are in an adventure. And so I think that he's grown to really care about all of the people and, like finding his way to understand, because, he's big on like his empathy and things like that, like a way to understand the driving factors of these people. So I think he really likes them. I think he struggles a little with the chaotic nature of their personalities. I think like he probably does a lot of apologizing for people and things like that as they leave a town and things like that. But I mean, he loves them. And I think after the last couple of games, he would follow Nira into a volcano because he thought they were going to go to safety, and they went to do the thing that he secretly really wanted to do.
It's the one kind of relationship that I really didn't see coming. The relationship between David and Nira. That's kind of starting to blossom in a sense of like trust, I think, or respect maybe is a better word.
I think that it's possibly a little bit of like these two. So first of all, they're about the same size, right? So like, imagine you're in a group of people and everyone is gigantic,
like taller, yeah.
But there's someone that you can just look straight forward eye to eye with. There's that little bit of like, okay. But the concept here too is that they're so diametrically opposed in mentality, or they were when they came into this. But like David's mentality has rubbed off on Nira, and Nira's kind of like carefree. Like it's not all about the structure of like get up in the morning, run laps because someone told me to, and train because I have to, and just like the like Nira doesn't seem to do anything because it was foretold, and I think that's something that David admires a lot.
Yeah, Nira is pure freedom and chaos.
Right, and David used to be pure freedom.
Yeah.
Until one day. But his pure freedom was like, everyone in the world, leave me alone. I'm going to read books.
Yeah.
So I think that it's like a roll of the dice kind of person that David never saw himself being. but it results in him having opportunities to do things he wouldn't imagine. And I think that he really clings on to that.
Yeah, fascinating. Let's skip number 5. We'll come back to number 5. So number 6, David went out of his way to give medical aid to those who needed it. Does he see himself as a healer?
David sees himself. I mean, he doesn't see himself as a cleric or a paladin because that's not something that an adventurer thinks about. Like, oh, but he sees himself mechanically as a cleric or a paladin, as a protector, especially from our last game that we played.
Yeah.
So what he doesn't see himself as is a druid, right? He just doesn't.
Connected to nature, yeah.
That's why his beast shape was off-putting. Is because he's never tried.
Possibly
he doesn't know
the greatest thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
He thinks he remembers what a giant owl looks like from that one time he saw one once. And so it's like, so it's just like the kit for a wildfire druid is like amazing for healing. Like any healing they do once you have enhanced bond gets a D8. Like any healing or fire gets an additional D8.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to play a healer that didn't have to be a cleric. So David is definitely like, he doesn't latch on to the circle of druids aspect of his destiny.
Yeah.
But he's starting to embrace to protect the people part. And that's helped him dive in.
Yeah, kind of following on from that, I'll kind of skip ahead a little bit.
This is your show, baby.
I know. I'm gonna. I think because it's a quick answer. David's first instinct seems to be to save people. Has he always been this way? I think you kind of answered that already.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit.
It was to keep to myself and not be bothered.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to 7.
Wait, I have 20 more minutes about that question because that's my stuff. I don't.
Thank you again, Child of Ote, for all these questions. What was David thinking as he was being grabbed and dragged into the portal besides holy shit?
I think he was literally just thinking, oh shit. Oh shit. It's 12 seconds from grab to when he turned into owl, right? Because of like 2 rounds. Or not even that. It was the end of 1 round, the next round, so there was so little time. It was just
I never thought about that. Yeah.
As he's falling, he's thinking, okay, no one can see me right now. I'm falling. I mean, I feel the power inside me that I could get out. Yeah. Here we go.
Yeah.
And that's why it was just like a real sloppy owl.
Well, following on from that, what does David think about Reginald making a sacrifice and coming in after him?
He thought it was foolish. The thing was, he gets it. He would do the same thing. It's sort of that kind of thing where it's like, if there is something that you feel negatively about yourself, even if it's subconscious, and you see it in somebody else, it makes you more upset that they do it because you're kind of connecting to yourself. You may not be thinking it, but like if I see myself in something that I don't like about myself being done by someone else, it's like even more disgusting kind of a feel. It wasn't disgusted, but like that kind of principle. It's like I would do the same thing without thinking. And that's not smart of me to do. So when he saw it being done of someone else, it was like, that's why like when we landed, I was like, so what was your plan? And then you actually told me and I was like, oh, okay, well, thank you. But like, it's just that you just dove in, like, then what? Then what's next?
Yeah.
We both die? Like, You got Silva up there. She wouldn't be happy. Like all that kind of stuff. And it complicated it for me as a player. And it's a bummer too, because it's like one of 2 times in these 3 episodes where I'm like, I know that I'm going to waste my most valuable resource of a beast shape to leave a thing that I know eventually we have to go into, but a giant tentacle monster pulled me into a portal. That's not a good thing. I gotta get out.
No.
So it was like, I know I'm gonna waste my most valuable resource in having Cure available, but it's what the situation called for, and it was a fun thing to play.
It's all Hope's fault. It's all Hope's fault.
I know, and I love it.
Curse you, Hope. No, we love you. Yeah, well, interesting with that scene. That was very much off the top of my head for Reginald to jump in, because he's really only close to Silva. But then I was thinking, well, Hope said we've known each other for 3 months or something like that. I can't remember exactly. I thought, well, I think there's probably someone that he might have sort of grown a little bit close to. And in that moment, I thought, well, I think it's actually David. He's not. I don't think he's close to or understands the others at all. But I think he's got a little bit of a connection to David in his mind.
Well, also one of the things I was wondering too is we don't know a lot about. Is it Oberon, the brother?
Oh, the partner of Silva.
Yeah,
yes.
the partner. Yeah. I don't know if we know much about Oberon. I don't know how much of that's been talked about in the group, but like I was wondering, like, is it that Reginald connected something with seeing David fall that connected him with like that moment he felt with Oberon's situation that made reason go out the window? So I don't know.
But for Reginald, it was very unlike him because it was very much not based on reason at all, and he's usually very reasonable.
Yeah, David seems to be bringing that to people. And I'm sorry
he does. He does. No, it's good. It's good character growth. I love it. Let's see now. What have we not? Did we ask the one about David's first instinct seems to be saving people?
Yes, we did.
You did ask that one.
It wasn't before. It is now.
That's right. Yeah. What are some of your favorite moments so far?
I'll tell you. Last night I re-listened to episode 3, and I mean it was really cool because it's so hard at times to like hear yourself perform and critique. And I'll tell you, I just listened because I was a fan of what was happening. Like it was just really cool. And because of us being in the moment, I mean, we all gave the stars and the feelings and all of that to Danny, to Daniel, and to Duval for that little okay, episode is done. But wait, I have 2, San Leon had his conversation first, and then Kotatar wanted to talk to Silva. And like the beauty in how San Leon talked about his past to Kotatar, and then right off the heels of that, Kotatar basically saying like, hey, that thing you hate about yourself, great job about it. And Danny was just like, I appreciate the thought, but I don't think I can tap into it. And it's just like it was just like, and just I had put a lot of my emotional self into playing like the scene right before it where, that kind of like, I know these people can get me, but whatever happens next is not gonna be good. But I did it anyway, like, and just after losing the kid, like all that stuff. So I was just like emotionally like pretty raw after that. And then that happened. So I think that might be my favorite, like holy shit kind of moment.
Yeah.
And
it was amazing.
and then hopes, but wait, there's more when
there's more.
Came up.
Yeah. Yep. Excellent. So last question from Child Devote. Thank you again. And I'll add a little bit onto this one too. Is David afraid of meeting the Nightmare King? And I'll add, who or what do you think the Nightmare King is?
I mean, I think one of the things that makes David terrified of meeting the Nightmare King is, you know, we've dealt with bad guys, we've dealt with stuff, we've dealt with like save the village, do this, but we haven't gone up against someone who's like their domain is nightmares, right? And one of the things that David is afraid of is that he's moving in the right direction towards being a part of this terrifying ordeal that's supposed to happen in the future. So I think he's probably struggling a little bit with like he probably doesn't think that this is the prophecy evil because none of the other stuff makes sense. But it's like, if we do this, this is like sealing. This is like me giving into like, yeah, I am supposed to do something important. And so I think that is a thing that he's afraid about now. Right. In the like, let's find the Nightmare King.
Yeah.
I think he's afraid of that concept of like, oh, a big evil that we have to stop. I guess this is happening. Fuck. And I don't know. I mean, there's just a lot to it, right? Like, I don't think we're at a point from learning about the Nightmare King to the tornado to right after that David has much of a thought about like, oh, who is this Nightmare King? I mean, he's the king of nightmares. That's point blank. Like, it's not like, is it maybe this person? It's just, it's the king of nightmares, which nightmares aren't in and of themselves bad things. They're unpleasant, but they also can be the thing that like you're really uncomfortable about something and you have a nightmare about it, and when you wake up, you reflect on that thing. So like that nightmare helped you to face that, like, you don't feel good about it. You know, like,
it can be used to grow or purge emotions from yourself or something like that. Yeah.
It just perhaps is not a pure malevolent force. Like, just who knows? One of the things that I'm wondering is like, okay, I get why they took a king because weirdos do that. But like, why pull the adventurers into the portal too? Like, why were like, we jumped in after, but why were we pulled in? Why did, David was the one that got pulled in, but I don't think he was targeted because Silva was being dragged, So why was it just like, oh, if there's something around, it's coming in here?
Yeah, it could be random. It could have no purpose.
We didn't get pulled into the Nightmare King's like dungeon. We got pulled into the
realm,
sea of mirrors or whatever. So I'm curious about that.
Yes, me too. All right, a couple of questions from me, then we'll open it to the floor, and I think we'll be done.
I got all day.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So this is a question that I hope you don't mind. Hope you don't mind me asking, and it's not. I don't.
If I do, I won't answer.
Exactly, and I don't like people being too critical of themselves. Like, it's like, basically. Anyway, so the question is, what do you think has worked so far with David in this campaign, and what do you think hasn't worked, if anything?
I can't believe you would ask me that.
Oh no, terrible.
I'm just kidding. I mean, it's hard too, because, and it's like the question I asked Danny about, like, both of you yesterday, about like, what are some things that you saw in your characters going into it, like that kind of thing. And it's like, we're 3 sessions in. So, I mean, something that I think might be working actually isn't. and something that I think isn't working might, like, I don't have enough data points for a true like assessment. But one of the things I think is working is I think that being true to the concepts that I've thought about with David going into it, like I'm not looking back being like, that's not what he would have done. Like, he would have a panic attack about, or an anxiety attack, panic attack about losing sight of or feeling with Kier. And then that was an interesting moment for me, having that kind of just happen. Is like, up until that point, if you had asked David, you know, he would have said that Kier was a burden that he wished he was rid of. And then he wasn't there, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
But what hasn't worked, I mean, the thing I critique myself the most about is like, am I doing too much? Am I talking too much? Am I inserting myself? You know, and it's a struggle that a lot of us, I'm sure, have. You know, I'm sure that, yeah.
And you aren't, from my perspective. I don't think from any of our perspectives. No, you're not. But it's interesting to think about what goes through our heads, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I mean, especially because of my history, negative self-thought was just like that was my bailiwick. You know, it was my comfort zone, is thinking poorly of myself, and I've overcome a lot of that. But I still am like, oh my gosh, is everyone mad at me because I won't shut up?
We're not. No one is mad at you.
Well, I haven't had Duval say that he's not mad at me yet.
Oh, Duval's mad at everyone. Sorry, that's the exception. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, we'll find out what's not working when I wasted spell slots. There's that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I regret that too. Yeah.
Part of that, it makes sense for the story. It makes sense for the character, but like, in a pinch, it could fuck us over. So I've got to. I don't think it's not. I don't think that it's not working. I don't think that it's not working.
Yeah.
I think that it's working, but there's possibly a better way to you know, live David's truth without wasting resources quite as much.
But that makes for good RPing when you do lose resources, I think.
It does, but also it doesn't work better than finding a way to do it without, right? I mean,
yeah. So I'll have one more question, and then if anyone else has got questions in the chat, go for it. So without spoilers, not that we can really spoil anything because we're not completely in control of the narrative, what are you hoping happens in the remaining episodes?
I'm hoping that we decide that it's simply not enough time to tell the story that we all want to tell, and that 6 is just not enough. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that we can find a way, because I like the fact that we're not sharing everything, that we're not blowing things out of the water. I'm hoping that whether it be now, later, down the line, that we get to continue as a team to share the story.
Yes. I hope so too. Duval has asked a question. What do you hope the end game of this internal journey for David looks like? Very good question. So that would probably be an end game in the very long term rather than just these 6 episodes.
Yeah. I actively don't hope for a what is the internal resolution, because the answer that I would have given you from our first one shot to our second one shot to our episode 1 to our episode 3, like my hope, I don't even know. I don't know, because I mean, I'm loving that David is embracing being a hero and an adventurer.
Yeah.
I don't see him ever wanting the druid circle destiny. He is not a druid. It's just he's not in his heart and soul. I think what I would love to see down the line is like meeting other people that are part of the prophecy, whether they are in it to win it, reluctant like he is, have studied the whole time. Because like the circle of druid isn't like the subclass circle of, it's like a circle of druids. Some might be twilights, another might be a fire spirit. I think that they all have a spirit that guides them. And that the fact that Kier physically manifests is not normal.
Yeah.
That he actually, so like I think what in the midterm of the long run, so like still a ways away, but not the end goal, is I kind of want to see like Kier's character development from the person who's supposed to just train a soldier, but he's been a little bit more involved, or I don't know what Kier is, but Kier is more involved than he's probably supposed to be, you know, in the training. And also like, you know, as it relates to like the circle of druids of a prophecy, like just a long-winded, like I'm sure Daniel would talk about it and slip into his like really good like
fancy accent.
Yeah. I think that he is in their eyes a failure. Even if he gets really strong and helps a lot of people, he's not what they want him to be. I don't think that there's any way he becomes the druid they want him to be. But it's like, okay, but he saves lives. He cares so much about others. You know, if you're having someone be a part of a group that's supposed to stop this calamitous evil, don't you want it to be someone that's like lives and breathes because people need help? But it's not the flavor of that you want, so you see it as a failure. I'd like to be able to touch into like what being the best example of what you should be looking for being a failure because, you know, they aren't the druids you want them to be.
I think if the history of literature and media has taught us anything, is that, and this is what I'm looking forward to, is that prophecies are vague and can often turn out not how you would expect. So I'm very curious, and it would obviously depend on the DM, but how his journey turns out in that respect.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's interesting about David, and I think I mentioned this in chat because we were talking about you and Danny's character development and growth and the conversations that you had. And it's like, you know how you build a character and then you step away from like, fuck, that's me. Shit. I think that, you know, and I remember Hope was like saying like, I was so nervous about that scene that it would like produce an unknown, you know, line or veil about like the kid being in danger when I'm a father, right, of a little boy. And so like that may have really given Lee, the player, that extra juice to be like, no, we got to do everything we can. But I was able to kind of divorce myself from the situation enough to not be like, Lyle, you know.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that my being a father has impacted the choice of being like, I am protector. I want to keep safe.
Yeah.
And that's an obvious one. But what's less obvious that I realized yesterday is the concept of David waking up one day and being completely different because of this power he was given.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, that's like my recovery in that I changed my entire life at 30. Like I started over. And I was like, that's the one I didn't catch. But it's cool. I don't know. I like it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So unless we've got any more questions to come, the last question from me is, do you have anything to plug in your life, your work?
Yeah. The Fantastic Kings and where to find them.
Daddy did that too.
I mean, I don't know. Anyone want to commission a pancake? Or if you need pancake artists, go to dancakes.com. I don't have any other shows. I make pancake art. If you want some and you want to pay me for it, what's up? DM me. We'll talk. But
here's an easy question for you. You probably get this all the time.
Yes, you can eat them.
What is the chemical makeup of a pancake?
I add water to the mix, man. I mean, it's like eggs, flour, sugar, water.
Well, you've got H2, you got H2O, and then you've got
yeah. But I mean, honestly, if you're making pancake art at home, don't try to make your own mix. Just add water.
Yeah.
Because the most important thing is the texture, and you want it to be the right thickness or thinness. And if you have to add a fraction of an egg or like a minuscule amount of flour, it's going to be a mess and taste terrible.
Oh, one final question. Oh, did I forget that? Okay. I think what Duval means is what's David's relationship with each of the other characters? How does he feel towards all the other characters? I thought I asked that. I must have forgotten. Yes.
It was what does he think? What does he think of them?
Yeah, and what's their relationship like? Yeah.
This is also a now. I think that with Kosatar and San Leon, I think he's a curious observer of them. Like first of all, David thinks everyone is amazing. The things that they can do is so impressive, and they want to be here. Like that in itself is like, okay.
What the hell's that?
And so I think that he watches San Leon and Kotatar like, have a platonic but love for each other that is like shown in such a weird way because they don't. It's like how he lost Kier for that feeling of having Kier there. If one of them spent like 2 days without the other one, you would see a weird breaking of the person, and they would never be able to say like, oh, it's because Coach Tar is not here that I'm feeling this way. But it would have like an obvious impact.
Yeah.
And so I think he loves just like watching, kind of like me. It's like, I want to watch the anime of their adventures. I think he's just like, these are two of the most deadly people I've ever met. And they're like getting annoyed over the most petty shit with each other. And it's just hilarious. And plus just like all of the wild stuff that San Leon says about his past. He's just like, yeah, obviously that's fine. Like Coach Tar's like, oh, I don't know if you're actually 472. And David's like, yeah, why not? I'm a magic man who throws fire and I shouldn't be. So like why like just like people who don't believe in like the possibility of a thing is like, dude, why? A genie gives that one power. Like why wouldn't you believe he's an immortal vampire?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think he just he really likes that, and I think that he leans on Kotatar because Kotatar has so much experience in the battle, right? In the fight.
Yeah.
That like when David was freaking out in the last episode, it was Kotatar that was able to kind of reach him to like give him practical like stop, breathe, that kind of stuff, and he has a trust on the field of Kotatar from there.
Yeah.
I think with Nira, the moment that she flew back at the ship, he basically was like, this is someone I'll never leave the side of again.
Yeah, that was a big moment.
I think that it's like, I can't understand how this person can move so carefree and without fear of consequence when everything in my life is like the fear of a consequence I didn't get to choose, but just like the freeness of what that allowed them to attempt.
Yeah.
That David thought he was whipping onto the broom because he couldn't make it to the brick house in time.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got a lot to say. I think with Reginald, I think he fears for Reginald because David is forced to be a hero. Not forced to, he could stay no, but he's being pushed to be a hero, but getting so much training daily on what that looks like and how to use the stuff. But that Reginald wants to be a hero, but has had no one guide him. So it's like they have the opposite thing. And so he's like afraid, like you're silly for choosing this. And it's unfortunate that you don't have someone to like it's like you got to do it on your own. And that's something that was like, oh, okay, what the heck?
Yeah.
I think he sees a lot of his struggle in Silva with the like being of fire, being, as a warlock, she has a patron, and as a wildfire, he's got, Kier, and I've just made Kier into such a motivating force that the concept that whatever, I don't know how much David at this point, I don't know how much David knows about the entity that gives Silva her power, but just the fact that Silva doesn't have to talk to her entity every day, that Silva isn't tied so closely to that entity, is just like wildly fascinating to him.
Is he a bit jealous, do you think?
I think that I think early on probably there was jealousy. And especially after like what it felt like to not have Kier, I think there's more confusion. I just think that his only experience with there being a companion that others can or cannot see at different times, I think that it's just seeing a different flavor of that is just he wants to know more.
Yeah.
Am I missing anyone?
Silva,
I guess. Yeah, it is Silva.
No, just Silva. I think that's everyone. I think maybe last we just talk about how much we love Hope, I think.
He's okay. Hope's fantastic. I'm so glad to be a part of this group. I've never, like I've said it before, and I know we all say it, and we're all trying to we're all gushing after a good session, and it always feels really good. But I have never clicked with strangers in this kind of an environment so easily, so quickly, so seamlessly. You know, we've all, I'm sure we've all got improvements that we could make to, you know, not improvements, maybe just adjustments, like about like, you know, we're online and we're all doing a show and it's like just a seamless talking at the right times kind of thing. It's just, I mean, I'm sure something that you just get more used to, but I think we do a great job of like being gracious to be like, oh, sorry. I just, it's one of those things like I can't imagine playing games with not these people.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree with that. Yep. And on that beautiful note, let us end there. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Tomorrow we've got Daniel talking about Saint Leon, which should be fascinating. So get your questions ready for him. And everyone have a wonderful day. And thank you once again, Lee. That was fantastic.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to do.
All right. See you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.